All right. I'm thinking we should be able to hear something here, but let's see. All right, we got the sound back. Thinking we should be able to hear something here. But let's. We got the sound back with the iPad Mini. We had to drop down the quality of the video, of course, because this is the best we're going to get on. What's really crazy is the iPad Mini, this particular one, has a higher resolution. But that higher resolution is causing a higher glare. And it's bringing out so much glare that it's bringing down the quality of the video. In the meantime, I'm going to play some important 10-ball. And I put the link for the Canadian tour that will start in September, October, and November. 25,000 added each event. Then in January, it starts back up. So you got 3 tournaments finish out this year, 2016, and it starts right up in January. And then in April will be the tournament number 6, and that will be a $100,000 added 10-ball event. That will be the biggest in North America. That's the biggest tournament in that continent ever. And just to give you an idea of the amount of money that it is, $100,000, that's $25,000 more than the U.S. Open. And the U.S. Open is $50,000 first place prize. So I'm looking forward to the Canadian tour. I'm 100% sure that I will probably play in every one of those events. And those events will be 10-ball on the diamond table with the 860 Simonis and the Aramis balls. So because I have all of the equipment right here, I can train to compete in that event. It's going to take a tremendous amount of physical conditioning, which I have been an great athlete, and now I'm way behind in that. Now, a couple of things is Molinari gave me quite a gift, actually. They have this cloth, which is kind of interesting. This cloth here. Problem with me standing in front of the camera is it glares. This is like a little emery cloth, it works like. It's like a sandpaper, but it's very, very fine. But yet it does have some grit. Very interesting by Molinari. Now the brake cue that I'm using is a Dominiac, very unique. It's a Purple Heart shaft, 8 spliced. I'm now using the Molinari glove that was given to me as a gift as well. This will be first time. I just received it. I also received something very important. In this package here that I just received is from Kamui, who has been a supporter and sponsor of my show for 4 years. What I have here is diamond slicers. And when I get ready to have some time, I'm going to put this all around the table. This is a measuring stick for kicking, and it's a calculator almost. And we'll go over, and I'll go over the entire system here. And this was created by Kamui, and it is outstanding, especially if you want to learn how to kick, and we all want to learn how to kick. Very excited about that. In 10 ball, you want to play the second ball in the side pocket. That's the shot. Second ball, side pocket. It's relatively a straight-on shot. Don't hit it too hard. Accuracy is more important. There it is. That's a good shot. It's a good break. The 5 goes. I can put this rack together. Nope. Table's very, very tight. Extremely tight. You're going to have to drive balls in or nothing's going to go. A lot of it is the weather. Climate. Oh boy, that wasn't too good. I'm using a new shaft because my tip fell off. Well, this shaft's 13 1/4. I was playing with 12 1/4. I also was playing with a Kamui tip. Now I'm playing with an Elk Master because that's what was on this. Shaft's very thick, but I'll get used to it. I've played with thick shafts before. Nothing new. I just changed my bridge work a little bit. Very tough to draw with an Elk Master, so you don't really do a lot of power draw stroking with it, but it does hit very soft, which is nice. Yeah, I'm buying a streaming camera, a very, very expensive one. But the wife said, look, this is what you're going to be doing, and why not just get with the program? And although I had the highest quality stream because of the high definition, giving it for free, I'm going to splurge and get this one that is going to not only give me high definition, I'm going to have editing, I'm going to have 4K. It's going to be very, very high quality. But, like I said, I put a $100 deposit down because there's a way that you cannot, they haven't come out yet. And they're coming out in July. But you don't put $100 up, you ain't getting one because they're only making a certain amount, limited, and they're going to sell out. Oh, they already sold out, one of the two. Ooh, that's a tough miss. Oh boy, I was too short with the bridge work. And because of that, I was in like a little box. Couldn't get loose with it. So you really want to give yourself some room, but when you're not in good shape, you're going to have to work your way towards it. Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't just get up and play great. A lot of work involved. Now the 2 and 3 go in the corners. So you get the 1 on top, 2 and 3 in the corners. That's every time you have to do that. I'm going to open up the chat here in case somebody has some information. Wow, that wrap must have been loose, because I hit it pretty good. Too hard, that's for sure. Well, my buddy Chatty Liu, who was at the Super Billiard Expo, if you were there, he bought a lot of nice cues. He was stopped at Ernie Gutierrez's shop before he went back to Taiwan. He's probably spent a good 100 grand, maybe more, or 50,000, whatever he spent. It was a lot, and got stopped at customs. I believe he lost everything. We don't know exactly, but that's the word. And one of those cues was mine. Alright, now we work on our warm-up strokes and good follow-through, good touches. Let's see how we do. Uh-oh, there you go. Nice stroke that time. Ooh, I thought I should have made that one. Well, I should have, but I didn't. All right. Let's see how we do here. Well, that ain't going to happen, is it? Huh. Nope, missed it. What was the climate this week in Las Vegas? 119? What? No. How are you going to live like that? That, Griffin's got a room opening up in Las Vegas, right? But I got to tell you, it's going to be tough action. It's going to be 100, every day now. 119, today was, 114? Crazy climate out there. There's your Elk Master right there. Holy cow. I remember back in the late 60s, I used to play with an Elk Master, and I can tell the memories of back then flashing back to me right now. It's really interesting because I used to be quite a slip stroke player, and with the soft tip I was able to get out to the ball, and that ball would go in the pocket even when I hit it into the rail a lot of times, because it would hit so soft, and it would end up having perfect what they call ball pocket speed, and that's exactly what happened. Well, let me shut the chat down. Yeah. Well, anyhow, this is the stream, and until July, or unless I can get my backup Logitech to work, this will be it. For temporary, but this is it. And lucky to have, lucky to get any stream, to tell you the truth, but because I've been here before, and you got to roll with the punches. Life is not all about perfect situations. Actually, it's more about non-perfection and making your adjustments accordingly and not losing your attitude or your shape. Like we see a lot of Americans get out of shape when things ain't going their way. They can't perform to their best performance. Well, anyhow, Efren is undefeated. He just won again against Danny Smith, and every one of those matches, I believe, are worth $1,000 to the winner. And Efren hasn't lost a match, and neither has Shane Van Boeing, to my knowledge. Hasn't lost a match either. So we'll just have to see what ends up happening. But one thing's for sure, Shane can play one pocket. And I don't want to kid yourself, he's by far the best American pool player that probably ever lived. And it has to be recognized as such. I can't name another American who plays all the games and has achieved as much as Shane has. So, big shout out to the South Dakota kid, Shane Van Boeing. And I wish him the best in that, but he's already making his money. Shane is about the only guy is actually making a living. He's on a salary. He pays taxes. He's got it going on. The only thing he doesn't have is a wife and children and some kind of home stability like. But for right now, I don't think that's important. He can set up his whole life right now. And that's just what he's doing. And if he does elect to get married, which, there's nothing to me that's more important or more gratifying than having somebody who says that they care about you, that you mean the world to them. And you can have all the titles you want and all the accolades that come along with that, but the truth of the matter is, when push comes to shove, when you go back to your hotel room or motel room or even your apartment or house, if you're lucky enough to buy a house, you're going to be looking at four walls and your trophies, and that's not actually very rewarding. So, but, you know, who am I to say what's best for somebody else? Somebody may want to be single for whatever reasons, and that's what ticks for them. Others might want to get married 15 different times, and that works for them. Whatever works for you is what you want to do. So if you want to get married and you want to have children going to college and stuff, you're not going to be able to do it playing pool. That's impossible. Now, having said that, I'm going to get a hold of the Star Table people because they had another meeting, and they're coming, you know, they sent me a proposal. I came back with a, you know, mainly a rejection, really. It's a tricky situation, especially now that Canada has countered with that tour. As we know, they had the World 8-Ball Championship canceled, taken from them, brought to China, because China said they're not going to add 100, they're going to add 300. And that was all the WPA needed to hear. And they gave that tournament that was Canada's, and they gave it away to China, who signed a 5-year deal for the Chinese 8-Ball World Championship, the WPA 8-Ball World Championship, and they're adding 300,000 5 years in a row. And that's the reason why I want to bring the Chinese 8-Ball tables here, and that's not even to mention the other major Chinese 8-Ball tournaments that's being held. The one that Star runs for 100,000, and also the Joy tables that run theirs for 50. And also several other events in the 25 to 15 range. So, and you know, you talk about the United States, we could talk about the United States and say, well, what do we got here? We got the Mez Tour, and we got the Predator Tour, and the Joss Tour. It doesn't work. None of them. Now, if you're an amateur, or you ain't doing this for a living, those tours are fine. But if you're doing this for a living, you can't be playing in those things. Those things are not going to pay the bills, and they're going to get you in trouble. The money's way too low. They're giving too much to the amateurs and not enough to the pros, and it's making the pros feel like suckers, actually. I know a lot of people, you know, were ranking on Earl for not showing up for the 2 matches down at the Ginky Memorial. And nobody heard from him. I didn't hear from him. I mean, I did call him, though, and because a lot of people don't understand actually what's going on. But I do. I definitely do. You're Earl Strickland, and you're playing in a major tournament with Mosconi Cup points, and you're only getting 2,000 added when it's supposed to be 5,000 added, but the 2,000 goes towards the amateurs so that they can get membership fee money, and the more members they get, the more money the guy that's promoting it makes. That's not helping the pro ranks. I got news for you. That's an absolute burial. And Joss is doing the same thing. And the Mez Tour on the West Coast, $65 entry fee, handicapped. Well, if you win it, you might get 1,200 with 100 million players. Spend 3 days killing yourself. You say to yourself, well, you know, if you're young, it don't matter. But if you've got any responsibilities at all, you can't do it. And you say, well, look at Vilmos, look at Oscar. Yeah, you look at him. I mean, look at him, it's right. You know? Oscar, at least he's running the tour, he's trying to do something, he's also working. It's not about playing for him, he got a job. But Vilmos, that's different. Vilmos is from another country. Vilmos is all in on pool. Vilmos don't care if he ever gets married again, because all he cares about is playing pool. So, I mean, he's going to play good pool, obviously. But he's also going to have a ridiculous style of life. As he ages, it's not going to be as good, and he's not going to win as often. So he's not thinking. But this is what young people do. Although, you know, Shane's out there, but Shane gets a salary. Shane's out there, but Q-Tech's paying him $100,000 a year for 10 years. He don't have to win nothing, but he's hungry because now he can make enough money to retire, and you got to get it now when you're young. Maybe Vilmos is doing the same thing. Difference is, though, Vilmos ain't getting that money from Q-Tech, and you can't make that money in pool. Playing in the Mez Tour, it's just not going to work. $65 entry fees, $2,500 added. You know, you're lucky if you get, I don't think they even get $2,000 for first. I really don't even know. I know it's not that great. I know that. You win every single one of them, it ain't that great still. So, but if that's the lifestyle you want to live, it's okay, I guess. So, but anyhow, if I should happen to get, you know, an agreement with Star, which is definitely still a possibility, and it's still a possibility I'll do a deal with Joy Tables too. They're not out of the hunt. I talked to them today. So it's pretty interesting. But one thing's for sure, if one of them wants to do business, I'll have that table in this room, for sure. I will replace this table with the Chinese 8-ball table, and I'll also be an exclusive dealer in the United States for Chinese 8-ball table. I'll hire reps, I'll hire salespeople, and we'll work together at creating possibly a tour. Chinese 8-ball tour. We'll run qualifiers for the Chinese World Championships and so forth and so on. I think right now, knowing that the Canada, you know, if I had a pool room, which I used to run a pool room when I was younger, but if I were in the business now, I would be running qualifiers for the Canada tournament, especially in New England. I would be running qualifying tournaments and getting in every one of those. Getting in every single one of them. You know, I'd run qualifiers till there was no time left. The tournament started. Right up until then, you run qualifiers. You fill up that field with your players and you get them in shape and you get excited about it. You know, and that's what I would do. Also, I'd have qualifiers going right now for the U.S. Open. You know, I'd be having one every week. Why not? Why not? You win a qualifier, you're in the U.S. Open, $50,000 for first, that's not too bad, you know? At least it gives you a little incentive. So that's the other thing. So that's what's going on. But other than that, I'm not going anywhere near what's happening with the local yokel tournaments. I have no desire. I am not going to waste my time and energy. Also, it's extremely unhealthy. Spend that kind of downtime in the pool room or whatever. That's how you get in trouble. You start to drink, you start to do this and that and whatever, and all of a sudden you're not going, you know, you're not going forward anymore. You know, it's very difficult, but the other side of the coin is if you want to play pool in America, it's all about being in the pool room. But truth of the matter is, you want to really be training at home, and that's what a guy like Jeremy Socci's doing. And I've gone to bat for him about him not getting picked on the Mosconi Cup team, as well as Oscar. One of the two reasons why you'd want to have Jeremy Socci representing the United States in the Mosconi Cup, as well as Oscar, is the fact that they're drug-free and alcohol-free. And this is critical in the presentation of the United States players. And I don't think Mark Wilson's given that any thought whatsoever, because it seems like every guy he picks is more gone than the other one. So it's like, you know, I don't care how they play pool. That's irrelevant. You're representing the United States, you bet, you know. And I think Mark Wilson turned his back on Jeremy and Oscar. Both of them were right in the running, and he could have easily picked either one of them. And he ignored both of them to get somebody that he knew from long ago or whatever. And it was definitely in poor taste, and they continue to lose. The bottom line is, lose. You know, there's two addictions. There's the losing addiction and the winning addiction, and Europe's got the winning, and America's got the addiction to lose. They ain't got a clue of what in the world they're doing when they pick a player, because they're picking the best players. They're not trying to put together a good team with good character. And that's a shame to me. And that's not to say that those guys that they picked aren't good guys, but they don't have the character of Oscar and Jeremy. And to ignore them and pick who they picked, John Schmidt, I mean, I don't want to give any names, but it's like, I don't think so. Something's wrong with how Mark Wilson's looking at people, because you can't pick those people. It's impossible. How can you ignore Oscar? How can you ignore Jeremy? They were right there with all the points. These guys, you're not going to get better people, better characters. So I've always been a little bit subjective to Mark Wilson's picks and how he's coached, how he spent their time, the training and stuff. And I just, you know, I'm not a Mark Wilson fan, I'll tell you that. But the bottom line is this. He's the captain, and he needs to be respected as the captain, and that's it. But I can understand why that team is having a difficulties, you know, mending together. It's obvious. If you're picking guys that you know, and you're also picking guys that you also know that their lifestyle's not that great, then that's not, I don't get that. I don't get how that is supposed to be a good thing to do. I mean, if you saw what Mike DeShane did at the U.S. Open against that poor guy, and then the tournament director went in Mike DeShane's favor when the score was 9-4 and he had 2-3 balls left on the table all hanging. He was about to go up 10-4, and the tournament director came in and he said, well, it hit the rack, which was a piece of paper hanging over the rail. It did nothing of disruptive in any way. And the tournament director came in and called it a foul. Now, I got to tell you, that's going to be a problem. And, you know, I don't think Mark Wilson saw the incredible anger in the other player and other people. They were going by and they were saying real bad things about Mike DeShane pulling that move. And I was right there, and I thought it was in terrible taste. It was just awful. You know, after the tournament, shortly after the tournament, Mike DeShane got picked over Oscar and Jeremy because he was a better pool player, maybe. Maybe. But when it came to character, he wasn't even in the game. He has nowhere near the character of the other two guys. How could you possibly make that pick? And then he picked the other kid too over him. I mean, that was ridiculous. So, I mean, you can't have attitudes like that. Eventually, that comes back to kill you. You got to have good attitudes. You have to have good leaders, you know. Adam Brown, or Brown Adams, says he has a bad attitude. Yeah. I mean, you know, he's capable of whacking the cue, breaking the shaft, giving somebody a tough time, making, you know, venom. He's full of venom, and it's a very difficult situation when you know that you're really doing everything right, like Oscar and Jeremy. I mean, you can't get more right than these two kids. And then you're picking these other two bad characters, and, you know, at the same time, you got to milk up to Mark Wilson, because if you don't, he's not picking you. It's a very tricky situation, and I feel that all the blame goes on Luke Richards anyhow. Luke Richards is building his team to beat the Americans, and then he's telling the Americans who the captain's going to be. I don't think Luke Richards should be picking the captain for our team. How the hell could he pick the captain for our team? He's already done it. And who did he pick? Charlie Williams. Now, whether Charlie's a good player or promoter, bing, boo, are you going to pick him to be captain of the United States team on the Mosconi Cup team? Let me ask you that. Are you going to do that? Because I wouldn't. And I don't know anybody that would, except Luke Richards. and to be honest with you, I don't know anybody that would pick Mark Wilson. Why would you pick Mark Wilson when you've got guys like Jimmy Fusco or Nick Varner, I mean, even Johnny Archer, or Rodney Morris, or anybody that makes sense. But to pick Mark Wilson, it doesn't make any sense. What does he bring to the table? Seriously. He's a pretty good pool player. He's pretty good knowledge, but he's not exceptional, and I don't believe that he's really doing a very good job communicating and picking the right people. I believe that his wavelength goes real similar to where he's from, which is, you know, that area that he's from, that state is not like, you know, I mean, a lot of people that play pool, they dying to go to Linwood University, but if you're from Boston, you're not trying to go to Linwood University. You're not even close to thinking about Linwood University. You're thinking about Harvard, MIT, Tufts, but you're not thinking about Linwood. And I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good thing that he's involved with that, but I don't think dragging somebody into pool in that way and telling them that they could have a future, that's absurd. I'd like to see it as a curriculum in the college field, definitely, but I would like it to be a curriculum for everybody, not just somebody that's good in pool and we want to make them a little better. Because to me, a teacher is somebody that has the ability to communicate and teach. Not somebody that's going to praise, somebody that's going to teach. Teaching doesn't really come with praise. I mean, if you're busy praising, then you ain't teaching. You have to teach means you have to get the person's attention to look at, you don't have this experience. This is how you know, we're going to have somebody teach you. That's basically it. Like I did with Mika Immonen. He didn't have billiard background. He didn't have one pocket. He didn't have nothing. And when he got through with me, he was loaded. And same with George Sanssouci. Same with the Gangsta. He had no knowledge of any of those games until he bumped into me, because I made them recognize the importance of those principles. Now, if you don't have a billiard background in pool, don't tell me about how to get to certain areas because you ain't got a clue. And somebody with billiard background, it's like having your car. You go into your car and you live in Nebraska, and I tell you to go to Boylston Street in Boston, but you can't use a GPS system. That's what it's like playing pool without having a billiard background, because what billiards is the GPS on a pool table. And how are you going to go without it and thinking it don't matter? The only way you're going without it and thinking it don't matter is ignorance and the fact that you don't have that background. Now, when I watch Mark Wilson, I don't see that background. I do not see him as a top billiard player. I don't see him as being a top defensive player, offensive player, breaking, pace, nothing. I mean, he's a good pool player, but that's it. He doesn't bring much to the plate. He actually is a very unartistic pool player, and he's definitely not my style. And that's not to say he's a bad guy, and that's not to say he's not a good pool player. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Scony Cup. We're talking about guys that have to watch Mark Wilson be captain of the team, guys like Nick Vanna. That's absurd. That's totally absurd. And I would even put Stan Shufford maybe even in there. You know, I want somebody with character, and I don't know if there's character going on in a lot of parts of the country when it comes to playing pool. When it comes to playing pool, you kind of lose a lot of character in the pool rooms down south, especially where they have that absurdity, gambling attitude and stuff like that. It's pretty tough to be nice when you're gambling all the time, you know, and treating others poorly and not caring about beating somebody out of their money. But anyhow, I'm going to take off and appreciate your time. I'm going to see if I can record this show. I don't think I can, and that's the problem with using this iPad mini. But I'm going to make an effort to try and record it, so we'll see what happens. And thank you so much for your time. Let me see what I can come up with. And God bless you all.